Welcome to Only Murders in My Mind, a Random Thought production. Hi, I'm Carol Bissett, a crime writer, and I invite you with my co-presenters, Liz Hedgecock and Mike Jackson, each week to our conversations on all things murderous.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Only Murders in My Mind. My name is Mike Jackson, and I'm here with my good friend Liz Hedgecock. Hello Liz.
Hello, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you. You'll notice that we are without our good friend Carol, who is not too well, but on the mend, and will hopefully be back with us again very shortly. We're both looking forward to her coming back because we tend to ramble a bit, Liz and I, and she is the actual one who sort of keeps control of us, I think.
I think, to be fair, we take it in turns to pull the others back
That's
on track,
right,
or possibly off track, depending on what mood we're in on any given day, but hey.
Today we're going to have a chat about crimes and ethical dilemmas.
Interesting one.
Liz, ethical dilemmas in crime. What does that sort of mean to you?
Oh, I suppose that for me is when I'm thinking about, say someone commits a crime, but they've got what you could consider a good reason for doing it. How do we feel about that?
Can committing a crime be morally justifiable?
Yeah, I mean, an example could be, for example, I'll say example a few more times, shall I? Thinking about perhaps someone committed a crime and they got away with it, and you know they got away with it, and you might want to revenge yourself on them. So, do two wrongs make a right?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because at the moment I am listening to, I think I've mentioned before on this podcast that I tend to do more listening of audiobooks now than reading. And I've just got hooked on the Thursday Murder Club. I'm just part way through listening to the second book.
Yes.
And I'm finding them fascinating. I didn't think I would, but I am. I'm finding, I like the style of the writing. But without giving anything away, in this second book, one of the characters from the Thursday Murder Club gets mugged. And they find out that the police find out who did it, this young 17, 18-year-old tearaway. But what the police actually say to the characters in the Thursday Murder Club, look, we know who did it, and we can get him in for a chat, and he'll deny everything. And because we haven't got any witnesses, and because you yourself can't say exactly who he was that did it, because he had a hoodie on and all sorts, there's nothing we can do. We can, have a word with him, but his solicitor won't let us get much further than that, and he'll be walking out the door within an hour of us talking to him. And the people within the Thursday Murder Club, there are 4 characters altogether, say, well, that's not fair. And the police saying, no, it's not fair, but there's nothing we can do about it. Anyway, one of the characters in the Thursday Murder Club is a lady called Liz, who used to work for MI5, and she has ways of finding things out. So she finds out who this young lad is, where he lives, and all sorts of information about him. And what is going to happen, and it's just about, I was listening to some last night, it's just about to happen. They're going to frame him, basically, for a crime.
So do you find yourself approving of this, Mike?
I do, yes. Funny enough, because at one time I thought Liz was going to get somebody to murder him, but it looks like he's actually going to get away with
that
just
might
being
be a slight overreaction.
Yes, it might have
perhaps.
been. But no, there does seem, because what happens in the book is that the chap called Ibrahim is the one who gets mugged, and they build it up quite nicely about how it's going to dent this newfound confidence he's got, because the Thursday Murder Club, these are all elderly, sort of 75, 80-year-olds in there.
Yeah, they live in a kind of a retirement community,
That's right.
A very nice one.
And it's very much built up how his whole confidence is being knocked. That confidence he was finding about getting out and going about in the main town had all been knocked, and he's going to go back to being a bit of a recluse. So they build up all this. You feel a great deal of sympathy for him. And then you feel really angry because the police can't do anything, though you can understand why they can't.
Yeah.
So for somebody to come along and say, leave it to me, I'll sort him. you feel as though that's quite right. Of course, it's totally illegal.
Oh, yeah.
Totally illegal.
Mm-hmm.
But morally, it seems right.
Yeah. I mean, an interesting one to do with ethics. If you read some of the Susie Bustle, Lockwood and Darrow Devon Detective series, I mean, Susie's a friend of the show. She's been a guest on the podcast. The two main characters there are Charlotte and Angus is an ex-police inspector. You know, he's retired now and he works as a private detective, but still very, very moral, very upright. Doesn't lie, stuff like that. And then you have Charlotte, who is, she's a cybersecurity expert. So she is very good at getting around security, hacking into things. And, sometimes she uses methods that are not strictly legal and could get her into a great deal of trouble. And at first, Angus is absolutely dead against things, even if it would take her 5 minutes to hack into something and it was completely undetectable, he would rather that they spend hours or days trying to get the information in a legal manner rather than let her do that. But eventually she wears him down. And it's really kind of interesting to see that. And occasionally he even sort of embraces the tech a bit himself. So it's funny to see that develop over the series because there are 6 books now and there's a 7th coming. So, yeah, it's nice to see that in a long series arc where, maybe the attitudes and relationship change slightly.
Yeah. And if you do take it to the other extreme, which goes beyond hacking and beyond framing somebody, there's been quite a few sort of vigilante type books or television programs.
Like what?
Well, I'm thinking of somebody like Lee Child and Reacher. You know,
I've heard of him. Never seen it. I do have a book of Reacher stories which I need to read.
No, I've read a number of those, and Reacher is always one of these that
he's a bit of a lone wolf.
Bit of a lone wolf.
He has a toothbrush, and that's about it. And he rhymes with his toothbrush.
Yeah, but he's always writing
with it, does he?
He's always righting wrongs, and usually the righting the wrong means.
Some more wrongs.
Well, I suppose he did some more wrongs, yes, because they're not they're violent books. So if he's not beating somebody up, then they might be meeting an untimely death. But invariably, you fall on the side of Reacher because you think he's doing good.
Yeah.
Whereas the evil people are not. But it's that dilemma again because
is it a dilemma for you though when you read or listen to or watch?
No, because
Reacher?
I think if it's done well, either written well or the story's told well in a film or on television, then the producer or the writer will have you on the side of the main character. They draw you into, I like this guy, so whatever he does will be for the right reasons. Even if he is breaking somebody's legs and shooting them in the kneecaps or whatever, it's.
I'm not sure I'd be quite so happy with that personally.
I suppose it's because it's not real.
True. Yes.
Certainly the circles that I go in, people don't get kneecapped very often, but.
Well, as an ex-primary school head teacher, I would hope not really.
Yeah. But no, it is that. In a way, it's almost that sort of Robin Hood complex. When you think, we all loved Robin Hood because he stole from the rich to give to the poor.
Yeah.
And I think, you might say that some people who embezzled companies out of millions will say, well, it's okay because these are rich banks and all I was doing was stealing from the rich.
Yeah, or that thing where, they had insurance, so it's a victimless crime.
Yep.
I've got one for you.
Go on then.
Book that you like, book that you know, In the Blink of an Eye.
Oh, I do like that book.
Yeah. Ethical dilemma? All sorts there.
Yes. I when I think back to the book, I think the main character, the policewoman.
Oh yes, Kat.
Wants to solve crime the old-fashioned way. She doesn't want to do it what she sees this newfangled technology because the AI can solve all sorts of things much more quickly.
Yeah. We should probably talk a bit about the premise of it.
Yes.
So we have Kat who has been on some extended leave following the death of her husband.
Yeah.
And when she comes back, she's told that she's going to go onto a special project.
Which she doesn't want to do.
No, she doesn't want to do, and specifically doesn't want to do it when she realises that she's going to be paired with an AI detective called Locke.
Yeah. And what happens, she has some sort of device strapped to her wrist or something.
Sort of like a Fitbit looking
Yes.
thing. Yeah.
And when she presses this AI lock, as he's called, materializes in sort of holographic form.
Kind of like with R2-D2 when Princess Leia appears.
Yeah. And
he's got more clothes on.
Because he's got all these AI capabilities, whereas it might take a room full of policemen to go through the last week's CCTV footage to see if a crime's been committed, he can do it in 2 minutes. And I think Kat finds it not right. She feels it's something that they should be doing. She's got this real dilemma there.
Well, there is the point. I mean, if you had AI detectives doing this stuff or AI entities doing this stuff, I mean, that is going to result in not needing as many police officers, isn't it? Or perhaps desk staff.
I think the other dilemma she gets is that this AI, this Locke, can get in any, it talks of hacking. He can get information from anywhere. And what he does do once or twice when they're talking to, I think they were looking at, from what I remember, cold murders?
Yes.
Cold cases.
Yeah.
And they were going back and talking to the parents of these youngsters who'd gone missing. And this Locke, because he's a machine.
It felt like they had a very specific remit.
That's right.
And part of that was to.
It was the cold cases, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I think part of that was to kind of to contain the work that the AI was doing in a kind of a these are things that probably nothing will come. So if anything comes out of this, then great. If it doesn't, then that's sad, but it's not expected. Yeah.
But this Locke, because he has access to all sorts of information very quickly, when they're interviewing these parents about a cold case about son or daughter who's been missing for many, many years, whereas Kat wants to approach it in a very sort of calm way and be very aware of their feelings, this Locke will just say, well, of course, you do know your son was a drug addict, and he'll come out with basic information. So there's that dilemma there, isn't it, about how much truth do you share with people?
Yes.
A machine will just give it to you because it doesn't have any feelings.
Yeah, or any tact. Yeah, because Kat at one point says you're not allowed to talk.
You can't say yes. No. Yeah, just don't talk.
You can talk if I say you can talk, but apart from that, you keep quiet. And I think Locke pretty much has to do what she says.
Yeah.
But I mean, then there's the whole motive behind it around the ethics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was also thinking, I don't think I've read it, but I've certainly seen it on the television, Hercule Poirot's Last Case.
Curtain.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we've spoken about this one before. And again, it's one I've reread recently.
Yeah, don't want to give the ending away.
No, because it's great.
Because it's a great ending.
Yeah, you need to just get the book and read it. That's what you should do.
But this is really one of those cases where there is a huge
fabulous
ethical dilemma,
Oh yeah.
Hercule finds himself in a very, very difficult situation.
Yeah, he's got to make a decision.
Yeah.
We won't say what decision he makes, but he does make a decision. And it is fascinating because he invites Hastings, isn't it?
That's right.
And it takes place at Styles.
Yeah.
Which is where the mysterious affair at Styles was. That was Hercule Poirot's first.
Yeah,
case,
he's an old man too, isn't he?
He is an old man now, and it's kind of that harking back, and there's all sorts of echoes in the book. Hastings was there for the first case, and he was a young man then, and I mean, I think he felt he was, an old embittered person, but now he really is older. Hercule Poirot is not a well man at all. And the house itself is not as it was in its glory days, and it's a really interesting atmospheric read, and absolutely fiendishly clever. I don't know how she thought of it, but there's a whole ethical dilemma in that one, and it is really interesting because the way that, because it is a murder case, and the way that the murderer murders is really quite something. Without saying any more.
No.
It's like, how much could I say and not give the game away here? So I'm going to Move swiftly away
Yeah.
from that.
But it is that great difficulty, isn't it? Because between how much, if you're reading something or if you're writing something, especially as a reader, I think, how much you prepared to accept laws being broken. You know, what's your break off point? You know, where do you get to a point you say, no, that's not right?
Yeah. Or if, you know, when you're writing and you're walking a line, do you think, do I go over that?
That's right.
I go over that line? I'm not sure. Because, the book I'm currently proofing, there's a bit where my main character apprehends someone, and the thing that this person has done at this point is pretty minor, but you know, she grabs this character, she hauls the character up, you know, she takes her to the authorities, and then, you know, when she's not happy with that, she takes her away and she locks her away. Saying, right, I'll deal with you later, I've got to go and do something, and you know, you cool your heels in there, and you know she's going to come back, and you know, and I felt quite bad about it because she was really horrible to this character who has apparently done quite a minor thing, and I know entirely why she's reacting in the way that she is, but it's still quite uncomfortable to write that, thinking, you know, she would never normally do something like this.
I think it does depend to a certain extent on when you're writing, or even the period that you're writing about.
Go on.
Well, I was thinking, if you've what's the Life on Mars?
Oh,
program,
yes.
Where the police are set in the 70s, 80s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah, because there's Life on Mars and there's Ashes to Ashes, isn't there?
Which was the first one? Ashes.
I think it was Life on Mars.
Life on Mars,
yeah.
And the police are set in. Gene Hunt is sort of 1970s.
Yeah.
And then they didn't have TV cameras or anything in the interrogation rooms, and somebody getting a big good beating to take to get a confession out of them was deemed to be the norm. And many of the programs around that time, or books written then, would have accepted that as the norm.
Yeah.
Nowadays it wouldn't.
Something like the Sweeney.
Yes, Sweeney. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas now that wouldn't. You apart from anything else, you couldn't write about it. You couldn't write about somebody being in an interrogation room and the policeman giving them a good slap, because we all know there are cameras and everything all over the place, so it couldn't happen.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it is that whole business about where do you draw the line, and sometimes.
Have you felt this in your writing?
Again,
because some of your characters, they have some dark moments.
They do, yes. I think, again, and I've talked about this before, I think because I write such short stories, there isn't room to get into that sort of ethical discussion. You know, sometimes when I write some really dark stuff, it just happens. You know, that there isn't, I don't have to justify it in any way, because it's almost a snapshot of something happening. I'll see if I can find 1 minute to read out. I'm trying to think what I've got that's dark.
Yeah, it's a shame that Carol's not on this podcast, because some of her characters do some dark things. You know, and I mean, she has her police team, the Cheshire Serious Crime Squad, and you know, there's obviously lots of police officers, and you know, some of them occasionally do things that you wouldn't necessarily expect, and without giving the game away on that, there's one character who actually, you know, does something illegal. I mean, I can see why they do it, and you know what the reasoning is and why they would think that, and even though you think, I know this is wrong, but you sympathize with them at the same time. You know, and that's quite a, you know, hard read in some ways. But yeah, some of her criminals are really criminal. So
it's also you when you think you've also got these sort of what some people talk about crimes of passion, where you can understand why something has happened because of what somebody's had to put up with. You know, so I don't know.
So the sort of thing where, I don't know, husband comes home and finds wife with or whatever, and, you know, there's a gun on the dressing table or something, and
Or the wife has been constantly abused by her husband, just
and
snaps and sticks a knife in his. And I think that's where, in modern day life, that's where courts have a great difficulty. Sometimes you hear of these cases going to court, and juries are finding it very difficult to convict or otherwise. I suppose if you're writing about something like that, then you've almost got to go in either prepared to sort of bend the rules completely because that's what fits into your story, or to go in the other way and say, no, I'm going to keep this story on the straight and narrow. I'm not going to have anything that deviates. And I wonder whether actually being able to bend the rules and allowing that to happen makes for a more intriguing story. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, certainly I'm thinking about the Booker and Fitch series. There are occasions when the police don't exactly lean on Jade and Fee, Booker and Fitch, but, you know, occasionally it's hinted, well, the thing is, we can't do this because it's not something the police can do. But, I mean, you two could kind of wander in and ask a few questions, couldn't you? You know, and they're kind of being used as a sort of executive branch, if you like, to do things that the police can't do.
Well, it's a bit like this Thursday Murder Club.
Yes.
Because the bit I listened to last night, one of the characters, Ron, has gone in, pretending to be a plumber, gone in to this teenager's house.
Yeah.
And planted some drugs and something else in there.
Oh, Ron.
And then he comes out, and they've got two people. There's a Donna and a Chris, two police.
Oh, yeah.
And he phones them up. He said, "This is an anonymous phone call."
Does he do it from his own phone?
And Donna said, "Right, Ron." "No, my name's not Ron." "Okay, Ron, you're anonymous. So what do you want?" "Well, you need to go to flat such and such. "Right, Ron. Sorry, you're not Ron, no. So why do we need to go there?" "Isn't that where such and such lives?" "That's right. And you wanted to go there?" "Yeah. If you go in there, search around, you could find some interesting things." But you see, the thing is, Ron, sorry, Mr. Anonymous phone caller, we can't just go unless something's happening. Is anything happening there? Can you hear any noise inside? Can you hear maybe people maybe at risk?" "Oh, yes, I can hear people at risk." "Oh, thank you very much." Now we can go in, and the whole thing is there was collusion
leading
there.
The witness there, Donna, leading the witness.
There's collusion there.
Just slightly. Wow.
But you're quite happy. Well, you think to yourself, you're quite happy to go along with this because it seems the right thing to do. And because it's a story, none of it's real.
Yeah.
But in real life...
And there's also the comic element.
And there's the comic element.
Yeah.
But in real life, if that happened, this poor Ryan, who's 17, could be in prison for the next 20 years because he's been, you know, in real life. But when we read stories or listen to stories, we tend to suspend reality, don't we? We tend to go into a realm where the things that happen we're okay with because we don't have to really give them too much thought.
Yeah.
Or they're not real.
In some ways, I quite like the idea of a character, even like a main character that you're meant to sympathise with, you know, maybe occasionally being in danger of going a little too far.
Yes. But if you've got a character like that, I suppose the dilemma for you as the writer is how far are you prepared to let them go? Yeah. You know, is there a point where if you let them go too far, you lose the reader's...
Yeah.
You know, the reader might be very much in favour of that person, but if you let them do X, Y, and Z, the reader may think, "Oh, I don't like that character anymore."
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying go too far, but I suppose I'm thinking, well, you know, to kind of indicate maybe how upset about something they are, or how committed to something they are, or something like that. You know, I quite like that idea of there being that tension of, are they actually going to do that or not? And not knowing and not thinking, oh, well, they won't do that because this is a nice character. I'm thinking, what if they do?
Yeah.
You know, again, it's that suspense thing, I suppose.
I think the interesting thing nowadays too, in the age that we live in, that the ethical dilemmas in crime are changing, aren't they? Because we've got the whole idea of AI, cybercrime, deep fake technology.
Oh, yeah.
You know, all that ethical thing about faked crimes and faked evidence. And
Yeah. I mean, the scary thing is, you could go into your email and there are probably, several emails in your junk folder which are from people who are trying to phish you, and get information off you and then, hack into your stuff. Yeah. And that's pretty grim.
We've talked in a previous...
Because when you're saying about the East End and how, it's cleaned up and it's, that kind of stuff has now moved to your inbox.
Yeah. We've talked before about this television programme. And again, I can't for the life of me remember the name of it, but it's all about this army officer who's just... his solicitor, a young lady, has just got him off a crime. They're celebrating in a pub. He goes outside to see her home. Mm-hmm. He says he puts her on the bus and she's found murdered in the back of a car. And it's all because MI5 are working with American people, CIA, whatever. I can't remember the reason why, but they faked it all. They faked the cameras because they got cameras all over the place. Mm-hmm. They were able to fake the cameras so that they could cut it so that instead of him putting on a bus, it looks like he's dragging her into a car. And the whole thing is around this.
Oh, that is creepy.
Yeah, this use of, and again, the dilemma there is that the people doing it feel justified in what they're doing because of the end result, and yet there's another group of people who have had this sort of thing happen to them, who are fighting it from the other, saying, this is a breach of our civil rights and all the rest of it. So there's a real dilemma right the way through the programme. It's a great programme, interesting series.
I'm trying to remember what it's called.
I just can't remember the name of it. But interesting.
Yeah.
Because it does actually take you down that road, No, I don't think. Well, maybe actually now they've said why they're doing it. Maybe no, these people on this side. I think I agree with them.
That's what I mean about the the line and being on either side of it and that tension there.
Yeah.
Remember a great bit from the BBC Sherlock where the Mycroft character, I think Watson's on his own in London and all of a sudden like a phone rings in a phone box and he goes to answer it. And it's Mycroft on the other end and he says, there's a CCTV camera, above the pub there. Look at it. And he watches it and the CCTV just turns away. And they says, right, there's another CCTV up there. Look at that. And it turns away. And there's 3 or 4 and they all turn away. And then he says, get in the car. And you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And when you think about that kind of silence as well, or just the noise of the camera going around, and he says, get in the car. Like, oh my gosh.
And the ethical dilemma is there. Should we have all these cameras watching our every move? Is it a breach of our rights, or does it actually keep us safe?
Yeah. Again, another really interesting question.
Yeah.
So,
right, I think we might
it's probably ethical to stop there.
Stop
torturing our listeners
before we get too ethical.
Yes, across the line. Who knows?
So, thank you very much, Liz, and thank you for listening, everybody. If you would like to leave us a like or subscribe to our YouTube channel where this podcast is on, that would be great. And you're always welcome to come and visit us on our blog, onlymurdersinmymind.wordpress.com. And you'll find all sorts of interesting things there. So, once again, many thanks and have a good day.
You have been listening to Only Murders in My Mind, a Random Thought production, produced by John Bissett. The music in Peril was composed and recorded by OM Studio Strings.